Hey everybody, welcome. It's Roots to Wellness podcast, and I'm your host, Raya Karin. I'm coming at you from the beautiful Burns Lake, British Columbia, Canada, and I love this space where I get to talk to many amazing souls out there and also share different things just on my own. I am an intuitive healer, a coach, a guide, a mom of two beautiful daughters, a nature witch, a lover of all things spiritual and intuition. And the space here to chat with you is something that is very near and dear to my heart aside from my work. I'm also a retreat facilitator, a speaker, a published author, and many other beautiful things in this world. Right now, I'm just here to share beautiful conversations and amazing different topics in this space. Welcome, welcome, welcome. There we go. All right, so I have Cindy Van from Kamloops today.
Hello.
And she's just this fearless spirit. She's a conscious channel for the Book of Life. She has her own podcast as well, Life at Full Blast, which is awesome. We chatted about that a little bit before. She has her business is a lot of divine timing business strategies that she works with many different people in the facets of all things combined, woo and all the good stuff as well. She's got a background as a project manager and a virtual assistant, so it kind of like molds beautifully together. She's got incredible skills to help all of us just expand and grow in all ways, which is awesome. She bridges the gap between those worlds, and which is beautiful, to bring all of that to light, because we all have this beautiful expansive side, and then we have this other piece that kind of is nice. And I think we're in a stage in the age right now where people are trying to figure out what that looks like coming together. So you bridge that beautifully. And you think so outside the box, which is nice, as well, because all of us who are in this this world of spirituality and intuition and all things, we're very often kind of all over the place, and we don't fit in a box.
Nobody likes
No, I always say the box is round. It doesn't, it's not square, and I don't go in the corners anywhere, right? So what I'm hopeful for today is just a candid, fun conversation, leading off of what we had a couple weeks ago when we really connected. You're really connected to nature, to animals. You have quite a beautiful background, as well. And I just would love to, if I've missed anything, just sharing a little bit about your journey and just what brought you into this beautiful work that you're doing right now.
Well, I mean, that goes back to when I was younger. When I was 16 years old, I grew up on a farm. So I running around barefoot in the grass, drinking out of the garden hose. That was my life.
Yeah.
And we had 18,000 chickens. So that is 6.3 million eggs per year.
How do you take care of 18,000 chickens?
Well, they're not free range. Let's just put it that way.
That's so many. I can't even fathom what that would look like.
Yeah, massive barns where we could actually change the air in the barns in 45 seconds or less. It was really, there was a lot of technology involved. We had German engineers that had come in and helped us build these barns. Yeah, it was quite the adventure growing up.
Wow.
But when I turned 16, just after I turned 16, my dad died suddenly. And it ripped my whole life apart. He was like my best friend. We always hung out on the farm together. He was the one who was what I would at the time have said more spiritually connected. But my mom went to church and my dad always questioned the universe. And so I would always spend time with dad because I would learn more that at the time that I thought, and I wasn't really into Sunday school. It wasn't my jam. So
No.
I'd rather run around on the farm in my bare feet and chase cows. That was what was fun for me.
Yeah, I hear you on that one.
Yeah. So when he died, I kind of went down this rabbit hole of I hate the universe, God is against me, everyone's going to abandon me, everyone's just going to leave anyway. I mean, the old abandonment wound was triggered massively.
Yeah.
And so from there, I made a series of decisions that led me down through massive cocaine addiction, very, very bad cocaine addiction for 3 years, and abusive relationships. I always joke around, you name the bad decision, Cindy has made it.
But look at where, it brought you to, right?
Exactly. And that's why, I laugh about it now and I can look back at my journey with absolute gratitude because it brought me to who I am today. And I think that's so important for everybody to recognize, we all go through traumatic experiences, but you can come out the other side always. Yeah. So being the rebel and not thinking inside the box, I would refuse to do formal treatment. When I came out of my addiction, I finally asked for help, and we knew that formal treatment wasn't going to work. Again, a lot of the 12-step programs, no knock to them whatsoever. I just knew they wouldn't work for me because of the religious aspect to it. And so I moved to a country that had the death penalty if you do drugs.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, you definitely way outside the box.
Yes.
Yes.
Was it the best decision? Yeah, maybe not. I was pretty miserable during that time, and I actually almost died in a third world country from pneumonia and didn't tell my mom. There's a lot of things that happened during that time. But when I came back from overseas, I moved to Jakarta, Indonesia for a year.
Yeah.
And I realized that if I came home then at the end of that year, that I would just slip back into old habits. So I chose another country that had very strict rules, and I moved to Dubai for a year and lived there, teaching English as a second language, other weird jobs. I was the manager of a wet wipe manufacturing company in Dubai.
Why not? Right?
Why not? An adventurous spirit.
Yeah.
So long story short, my mom ended up with serious life-threatening surgery, and then my uncle passed away, and so I've decided it's time to go home. Mom's fine, she's great. But of course, when I got home, I slipped into old habits and old crowds. So I relapsed for a little bit and continued to make bad decisions. And I, at this point, had never held a job for more than a year. Mostly because I don't like being told what to do. And I really don't like being put in a box. And that's what every job was like.
Yep.
And I also always thought I could do it better than the boss could anyway. So I finally found a job that paid the bills and was supporting me and that I didn't mind. And so I was serving tables and bartending. And I'd actually held a job bartending for almost 3 years, but I was at a dive bar that I had to close by myself late at night, and I had a baseball bat behind the bar for protection. Well, growing up on a farm, rough and tumble, also being street smart from addictions, I didn't think anything of it until one night I actually didn't have to use the bat, but I had to threaten with the bat.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can't do this anymore.
No.
I can't do this anymore. So I was driving home that night, crying, just like, what am I going to do with my life? Why can't I seem to figure this out? That dark night of the soul. And this song came on the radio by Hailstorm, and it's called I Am the Fire. And in that song, there is a line that says, you are the one you've been waiting for.
Full body goosebumps.
Me too. That song changed my life.
Yeah.
And so I listened to that song on repeat for about 4 hours at 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, researching career changes, different opportunities of where can I go? What can I do? Do I go back to school? What was I going to do? And I made a decision to go back to school as a mature student. At this point, I'm like mid-30s, and went back to school for event and promotions management because I thought running events, that's so fun. My brain works in a way that I can organize stuff, and I thought it would be so fun. Well, I hated that too. Because again, stuck in a box.
Yeah.
So it was while I was in college that I was like, you know what? I'm done. I can't do this anymore. The only way that I can make this life work is if I work for myself. And so I started a business while I was still in college. that business was called Get Shit Done. And I was a virtual assistant. And so
Yeah.
I went out and I just started working with healers and coaches, spiritual workers, anybody who was trying to build a business in the online space but didn't understand the technology. I got to go back just for a minute. So as I came home from Indonesia, I also dove into the personal development world. So the Tony Robbins, the Brendan Bouchards, the T. Harv Ekers. I did T. Harv Ekers' Quantum Leap program. I did all the things, and I learned all the stuff about how to build a business online, guerrilla marketing, you name the stuff.
All of it.
I took it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't implementing, I wasn't doing anything with it. So I thought, I've got this like $100,000 education in building a business online, and I'm not using it. Maybe I should start a business.
Yeah.
So part of our curriculum for event and promotions management was to go to volunteer at events. And so each quarter we had to volunteer at an event. Well, I started this business and then I'm like, how am I going to get clients? So I volunteered at an event that had 150 healers and spiritual workers in the room and built my business off the backbone of that event. I walked out of that event with 8 new clients.
Wow.
And I hated that too.
Oh my goodness. But you know, it's fascinating, if I might interrupt, is like you're not afraid to just try all the things and know that it's okay if you really just don't like it. And I think each time you do it, you kind of move on quicker, or not on, but move forward. And you're able to, trust the doors that open and be like, okay, well, I learned a lot of shit here, but not my jam. I'm going to go this way. Right. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very good at the pivot. Very
Yeah.
good at the pivot.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I was hustling. I mean, farm girl. I have farm girl work ethic. So I was like, I'm going to make thousands of dollars online. And so at one point, I found myself working 7 days a week, 15-hour days. And well, you know what that leads to, adrenal fatigue and burnout, right? I wasn't even going outside for like 3 or 4 days at a time. And so I quickly crashed and burned. And I was doing okay financially. I had clients, there was things that were working, but I was exhausted and I was miserable. My relationships are falling apart at the seams. I was drinking myself to sleep almost every night. My bank account was not happy, what I call living PayPal to PayPal and borrowing from the bank of mom. And I realized something needed to change. And at this event that I had started my business at, I had met this woman, and there was something about her. I couldn't figure out what it was. I couldn't put my finger on it, but she was talking about numbers. And I thought, what is this numerology crap? Like, I was so not in the spiritual realm at all. And she's talking about numerology, and she said, you should it's better experienced than explained. So she gave me a reading, and I literally sat there the whole time with my mouth hanging open going, what? Do you live in my house? How do you know me so well? And I felt seen for the first time in my entire life. So of course I go down the rabbit hole. I have no idea how I'm going to afford to pay her, but $10,000, take my money. So I learned all the things. I learned universal law. I learned how to think and create like the universe. I dove down the rabbit hole of 2 different systems of numerology and loved every minute of it, and tried and figured out how to bridge the gap with all the spiritual stuff, but also my background in project management, event management, and virtual assistant, because I'm good with technology. And not too many people can like to say that, but I love technology. So I bridged the gap and created a business behind it. And then I got a little bit sidetracked. And this woman asked me to be her COO of her company. Promises were made, big promises were made, financial promises were made, and there was no contract in place. And 2 years later, I found myself back where I was before, broke, burnt out, and miserable. And I thought, what is going on? I didn't realize that in my whole life, physical abuse, emotional abuse, all mental abuse, nobody had yet spiritually abused me. and she was literally sucking energy from my soul. So I had a moment at an event that her and I were at together, and it was as if, again, for the first time, I saw me. I didn't need somebody else to see me, but I saw me. And there were people in the room that heard. I made my friend yesterday, she said it sounded like a hyena, the noise that came out of me, because my body was just releasing and letting go and realizing I am the one I've been waiting for. So shortly after that, I quit as a COO. I gave everything back to her. I walked away and ended a 7-year deep friendship and relationship and business partnership and walked away, cut ties completely. Again, pivot.
Yeah.
On the same day that I did that, I bought a house, became a first-time homeowner. Shortly after that, I got engaged. I was never going to be married. Never. I was never going to live with another man. I was never getting married. But because all of a sudden I was standing in my power and sovereignty, I was like, wait a second, I do want that, because I wasn't being told by other people what I should be doing. And so happily engaged, getting married in a couple of years, started my own business and rocking it. And I literally wake up every morning going, what? This is amazing.
I just love it. That's so, and it's so like, I think sometimes we think like, because people just see what they see, right? And what is beautiful, I mean, we all have a story and we all have a journey to get to where we are. And I love that, you're the person you've been waiting for. And I think that's so huge in this work. That where you're bridging, the more technical stuff and the woo-woo fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I was just, I know when we met at the unconventional convention, it was so interesting because I was just like, I was saying on the way down, like, I feel as I get closer and closer to this thing I've said yes to, and I don't know why, but I'm going and I'm going over my speech and I'm writing the thing, I'm doing the things on the way down. I'm going, oh my God, this little small town farm girl, she's saddling up and she's going and just the journey down and stepping into that room and going, oh, wow, this is interesting. And then me getting, to break the ice. I'm like, what the kidding me?
Yeah, you were the first speaker.
I was like, oh shit. Okay, well, let's saddle up. Right. And I had, my little box with me and I had my, a couple stones that meant something to me and a photo of my dad. Because my dad passed away 2.5 years ago. Same as you. My soulful spiritual teacher, my rock, he understood me like nobody else. And I don't know, I think there's that quiet understanding too. I was that barefoot girl, the farm girl, like all the things we had horses, and 700 acres and just like all the things. We did all the things. But my favorite was just being barefoot outside, connecting with nature, connecting with animals. That's home. So, it's interesting. And I always find it so fun to talk to people who have had similar backgrounds because you get it.
Yeah.
It's like, you were the person that you were waiting for, but then when you meet that person, then other people come in to go, yeah, I get that. I see you. And I think that this journey, as it unfolds for both of us in this work that we're doing, more and more people see that essence, they see that joy, they see that love. Like when you speak of it, you just light up. And I know how that feels. I know what that's like when I watched you speak about it, when I watched you share your stories. And, as we have had a couple conversations, it's just this glow and your aura and all these things are just so incredible because you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
It's
not doing what other people tell me to do.
right. And I think that, when we realize that we're all here as our own very special, unique souls, just having this experience. And when we realize that and we look at fear and we're like, okay, I see you, but I'm going that way. And you can stay over there, but I'm gonna, saddle up and go. And it's such I don't even know how to put words to it. I've been working on that in this last little bit because there's just been so many impactful things that have unfolded. We've both done some writing and we're intrigued by that too, and sharing our stories because we know that it's going to help so many people step outside of that place where they are feeling unworthy, lost,
Mm.
lonely, sad, completely discombobulated from all of it because they just don't know. And it's okay not to know, right? And we get to hold this beautiful container for them to come and land and
Mhm.
just go, I don't know what the fuck to do, but I know I resonate with you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like, and I don't know about you, sometimes do you find it hard when you're in the midst of it and you're just like, you're just fired up to really, how do you articulate that
Mm.
feeling and that depth? Like you're meeting your soul
Mhm.
in the depths of who you are, and you're just like, wow, like I am so excited to know you, to travel with you. Like, how do you, what do what do you say to clients, or do they ask you about that journey and that connection?
Yeah, I do get asked that a lot. Because of the nature of my work, I'm working with online entrepreneurs, online coaches who have been told left, right, and center that they need 12 million things and they've got to organize everything and work in this box, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you go online, everybody and their dog has a strategy that you're supposed to be doing.
Oh yeah.
It's chaotic, and it's no wonder that people are in adrenal fatigue, burnt out, exhausted, especially in this particular year's energy where we're
Oof.
being asked to feel the sovereignty.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know that there's many out there who really understand what sovereignty is.
Mhm.
To not give a fuck what other people think of you,
Yeah.
what people think you should be doing.
Mhm.
It is absolute freedom. And
Yeah.
freedom, we throw the word freedom out like it's like candy, right?
Yeah.
But we don't actually think about what freedom actually means. When I was traveling all over the world, I thought I have freedom, but I didn't. I
Yeah.
was sick most of the time that I traveled.
Yeah.
I was beholden to the men that I was traveling with. I
Mhm.
didn't have that sovereignty. When I was working with this particular mentor and helping her build her business and building someone else's dream, I thought I had sovereignty because I thought I was helping her make decisions. And then I sat back and went, but I'm not building my dream,
No.
right? Sovereignty is when you are willing to ask for help and step out and say, I would like to for some advice from you, but
Yeah.
then also not caring what somebody thinks when you don't take that advice.
Yes.
Sovereignty is the ability to be wanting to sit in front of your computer and work a 15-hour day because you're so excited, and
Yes.
then taking the next 2 days off
Yeah.
or whatever it is, right? For me, I love to work. It's just who I am. And
Mhm.
so I sit in front of my computer a lot. But I also go outside and garden and have cats and I do all sorts of things. And I
Yeah.
think we're taught, you're supposed to have the white picket fence. You're supposed to go to school, get a good job, work 40 years, get the gold watch, retire, wait to die. That's what I was taught.
Right?
And that
Yep.
doesn't sound like very much fun. Like, and that doesn't sound like
No.
freedom. And
No.
sovereignty is the ability to understand who you are and what works best for you and be unapologetic in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just like even like Brené Brown, braving the wilderness. Like it's just it's oh, it's so fascinating.
I hear that.
Hang on. There we go. Nope. That better?
Think so.
There we go. When you're showing up and you're so afraid, but yet you're just being pulled,
Hmm.
right? And I think, and I love your description of sovereignty because I don't know that, like you said, that everybody really fully understands that. What does that mean? What does it look like? I mean, you see, like I watch Lori Ladd a lot, and she's amazing. And I'm like, she really dives into sovereignty, and it is a very strong theme, and the, strength of stepping out. And it's I always think of the lotus flower. It's
Hmm.
in the muck and the yuck for so long, and it's like getting all the juicy nutrients it needs, and then it slowly comes to the surface, and then it is this beautiful, gorgeous flower that we use for all kinds of symbolizing in our lives. you know, this strength and this beauty and all these things. And I feel like, you know, that's where we've kind of come through all of that stuff to really blossom into our own individuality, into the
Mhm.
work that we're doing, into our own unique path, because we're all unique.
Yeah.
We're all here to do something different. Maybe we work in similar areas, but you know, we come together, we help each other, we light each other up, we hold space for one another, and we go on this journey of this beautiful expansion and growth and awareness. And you know, I think you and I talked about, we were talking about hawks last time we
Mhm.
chatted, and
Yeah.
you live in an area where there's hawks. And well, I've got hawk feathers all over my office. I collect feathers, you know,
Mhm.
and they all have significant meaning. And you know, there's things like that. So we're finding significance in these things that come and present themselves to us,
Yeah.
but we're also showing people how to do the same. Look, ask the universe, look for the numbers. I mean, numbers show up for me all the time. I would just a retreat where I was facilitating in Canmore, and parked right in front of me was somebody's license plate with 2 letters and 5555. I'm like,
Ah,
I took a picture, and my sister's like, "Why are you taking a picture?" I'm like, "Did you read the numbers?" She's like,
right?
"Oh, Raya." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." You know, and it's just things like that present, whether it's, you know, in animal form, in bird form, in numbers, in that, you know, song that comes on the radio, and you're like, okay, yep, I am
Yeah.
listening. I hear you." So do you feel like when you really get people to come to that place of that awareness and that openness, like, do you see them kind of like settle in, or do they're just like, "Oh my God, like I don't know what just happened, but it happened."
A little bit of both, actually. Yeah. So the nature of my work, I work with, my clients always laugh. They're like, Cindy, you sound like a broken record. I say this all the time. Awareness is everything.
Yeah.
Awareness is everything. And so if we're, and I mean, 90% of us are walking through life completely unaware and oblivious of what's going on in our surroundings, right?
Yeah.
Well, our universe, our world is nothing but a mirror for what's happening in our own reality, in
Hmm.
our inner world. So when we go out into the world and we see beauty, we see feathers, we see these numbers, we see gratitude, we see all these people doing really cool things, that's a reflection of how we actually feel and how we perceive the world. But
Yeah.
if we go out into the world and we expect misery and traffic to be bad and war and all the other things, guess what we see? Right. And so be aware of what you're focusing on. But awareness goes deeper than that too. It goes down to your old patterns, the beliefs that you got when you were a kid, right? Your parents programmed you. It's not their fault. Just forgive them and move on.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
We don't have to camp out there.
No, and
No.
so walking through that isn't easy. I'm never going to claim to anybody that that work is easy. It's the hardest work you'll ever have to do.
Yep.
The forgiveness that I needed to do around my father and around myself and the choices that I made when I was growing up, my dear God, it was not fun. But man, was it ever worth it. And I'm somebody who doesn't necessarily love to feel my feelings. I would really rather skip over it. And I had to force myself to dig in. And I was afraid. I
Yeah.
was so afraid that I was going to break and that I was going to cry for 5 years and that I would never get out of bed. Turns out it took about a week and then I was back up on my feet and I was fine. Right. But one of the other things I always say to my clients too is your dream lives on the other side of your fear.
Mm.
Most of our
Right.
fears come from our past programming, our beliefs, and our perceptions. Well, somebody's going to judge me. Somebody's going to say that I look funny. Somebody's going to say that I stumbled on stage. What if I say the wrong words? What if I lose one of the pages of my script? Whatever, right? All these what ifs.
Yeah.
What if you're fucking amazing? Right?
Yep.
So I find that as I walk clients through the process of becoming aware of their own sovereignty, their own essence, their truth, their soul, whatever label you want to give that, then they go, oh crap, now what do I do with this? Right. And I think it's really important that as healers, as spiritual workers, we have a what's next for them.
Mhm.
because otherwise you're just going to revert to old habits and get sucked back into the old life. As we're rewiring neuron pathways in our brain and we become aware of these beliefs and these perceptions, it's like you've been going down this information superhighway for years.
Oh, yeah.
And your brain is designed for one thing and one thing only, to keep you alive. And then you're like, oh my God, I have an essence and a soul. I need to go over here out into the bushes and see what happens. And your brain is like, but there's lions and tigers and saber-tooth things out there. It's not safe. Keep it on the highway. Keep it on the highway. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can, like, in a day go, yep, no, we're going over here. And you got a goat path, and then you got a gravel road, and then you got a highway.
Yeah.
But some days when you're doing this work, you're like, highway, no, go over here, highway, no, go over here, highway. You've got to do it like 150 times, right? But eventually you start moving that way, the way that you want to be going. And it's about bringing your focus to what you want all the time.
Mhm.
Our brains are so designed to be focused on what we don't want, right? We watch the news and we're like, I don't want that. We go onto social media and go, I don't want that. But instead, if we can pivot to what we do want, and then our soul starts to go, okay, let's make some magic happen. And then
Mhm.
pretty soon you've got a business, or you're helping people, or you've started a nonprofit, or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
that dream starts to come alive the more you work with your brain and get shifted over to where you want to go.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question. I feel like
It
I went off on a complete
mm,
tangent there.
well, and that's the neurodiverse brain too. It's you gotta love that brain. But it's so interesting because, you think of like this, like that 16-lane highway, and you're just like like you're go, 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 go. And you're like you said, it is something that we're taught
Mhm.
to be, and we're not it's allowed to be inside the box, this person that is more free and expansive, and going, what, I see fear, but man, I want to go meet that tiger because he's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be safe about it, but I really want to go over there. And it's that sense of wonder and curiosity and that childlike playfulness that we lose through all of this shit that we got to go through.
Yeah.
And, you and I can relate to that a lot. I mean, I can't imagine 18,000 chickens, but, barefoot, the farm, the cows, and nature, th that was in your younger years, your most authentic self, where you felt so grounded, so connected spiritually and emotionally, like all the things right in that beautiful container. And so, bringing people to that place of, when did they feel that really wonderful connection, because we all have that.
Mhm.
But life gets in the way and throws some shit at us and we lose it. And it's not gone.
Nope.
We find it, but we have to, it's helping people to reconnect back to their roots, back to that little self that was just a spark and a spunk, right? And being able to draw on that energy and bring them forward, bring that forward, those versions of us that
Mhm.
want to be seen and heard, and man, they want to step out and they want to get on the stage, or they want to run retreats, or whatever it is, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
just gives you, when you are in that place working with people and with yourself, I mean, it's full body, like,
Mhm.
goosebumps and change. Like, it's just amazing. And I love how you describe, when you're coming from what is deep inside that beautiful, deep, soulful connection, you just radiate. And I know, I've seen you in that in person, and I've been experiencing some big pieces in person as well, with my retreats and, stepping up on the stage and all these things. And I'm going, holy shit, I'm here.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, oh my God, this is so freaking amazing. And I one day I want to write about it, because I really want to share with people the journey of what it is to come home
Mhm.
to that self, to that deep soul that we are. Because all this other stuff is just that, it's just pieces that come in.
Yeah.
And whether we grab onto them or not, it doesn't matter. But what is it like to, like you said, you're the one you've been waiting for. You're the
Mhm.
one that you're coming home to inside. And every time that you go out and you experience and you come back home to that self, it just grows and grows and grows. And I feel like with your red, it's that that really expansive, vibrant color. That's how you feel,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And so that is amazing. And when I'm out in nature, that expansiveness that I feel, whether I'm by the ocean or a waterfall or, river, lake, whatever, I just feel this expansiveness growing and
Yeah.
growing and growing. And so it's just so neat. And then you get those little nuggets that come in, and,
Mhm.
whether it's numbers and people go, well, what is that numerology thing that you do? Oh, really? You gave me a little nugget that I've shared with so many people, because I said, I'm going to be 49 this month.
Mhm.
You're like, oh, well, 49 is a rebirth year. Did you know that? I'm like, oh shit. No, I didn't. Tell me more. Right. Like, I didn't really even, I had no idea. I mean, I
Yeah.
love numbers, but I'm like, oh, well, what does that mean? I get to rebirth me as how I see me, how I want me to be out in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, ooh, so I've been so enticed since you said that. And I've been sharing it with people. And I just shared it with a lady at a group of ladies at this retreat. And this one lady came up to me and she goes, my 49th year was so amazing.
Yeah.
What you just shared makes so much sense. Wow. Like, and all I said was it was a rebirth year. But the little thing that you planted, then I am now planting out there. And who knows what anyone does with it. But it's like, I just felt like I literally got busted wide open by that one little thing,
Mhm.
amongst a few other things that we talked about. But that was just like, I just like, when you step out of, you see in some movies, like, people just break through the barrier in their wide open space, and they're like, I am here.
Yes.
It's like, yes, I'm here, damn it, right? Like, it was that feeling. And then when we were talking about all the hawks and the synchronicities in life, it's just like, oh shit,
Mhm.
I am here. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where you really got to after you had to go through all those other chunky, harder pieces. But had you not experienced that,
Mhm. I would not be this. I mean, I don't know that that is even possible, to be honest. I
yeah,
mean, I think that we all have this journey that we choose to come in on.
mm,
And did it mean cocaine addiction? And did it mean that I made that choice before I was born? I don't know. I'll find out later. But I chose a journey, definitely.
yeah,
And then I, as a human, made decisions that led me down that path, right? And even if I'd have made different decisions, there would have still been other challenges along the way.
yeah,
And I look back at that time of my life in absolute awe of the resiliency that I had, of the strength that I had,
yeah,
of even in the midst of not eating and not sleeping for over a week and being 90 pounds soaking wet, I still said no to people and walked away from situations that weren't healthy for me. And I didn't bow down to things like that. And when I look back at that now, I'm like, look at how strong you were even then.
yeah,
Right. And I think it's so important. I learn best through reflection. I learn best and I integrate through looking at what I learned and how I experienced something. And I think that's something that we can all do is look back at some of those traumatic experiences of your life. And instead of blaming current circumstances on the trauma, ask yourself, what was amazing about that time?
Ooh, I like that.
Because there's some gold in there always,
Yes,
even though
yes,
it's painful, even though it's hard, even though it sucked. There's always gold in it
yeah,
because you cannot have shadow without light.
no,
So it doesn't matter how dark it is or how shitty it is, find the gold.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I was just reading because reading your sign beside you, the only thing to fear is fear itself and spiders. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Spiders and I sometimes have little conversations.
Yeah.
We have an agreement.
Mm,
Stay out of my house and I will leave you alone. So long as the spiders are not in my house, we're good.
perfect. Sounds about like me.
And I had a spider. Well, we found a really giant spider in our yard the other day, and I touched it by accident, and that'll wake you up. The scream that reverberated through the neighborhood would have also woken you up. But because it was outside, that's your home. So I'm sorry, spider. I'm sorry that I touched you. I'm sorry that I disturbed your home. Can you please move over there?
I understand that you were here to give me a message, but keep on going. Just that way.
Exactly. Exactly. Somebody
Yeah.
suggested to me that spiders showing up in your experience is a sign of a creative web being created. So you're in a creative space where something is becoming. I really do try to remember that.
Yeah, I know, it's like you're like while you're screaming, you're like, all right, yeah.
It's like, damn it, that ain't right.
Ah, yeah. It's so interesting. You know, there was a period of time for probably about 8 years, 7 years, where I was pretty sure I was getting bit by spiders.
Mm,
And it would show up as a spider bite. It would act like it. There was lots of big shifts going on in my life at that time too. And I'm like, okay, why am I the only one?
yeah.
Out of all four of us in the same home, it's me while I'm
Mhm.
sleeping. Like, I don't ever see this happen. I don't even know when. There's many other pieces to this, but I'm like, well, what the hell? Like, I don't understand it, you know? And I would go through the healing and like all the things, you know, and I mean, there was just many other things now that I know that were going on in my body and all the things as well that, you know, there's no possible way that there was that many spiders biting me.
Yeah.
There was other things going on. And I've now gone, oh, but I was so scared and so driven by fear
Right.
that that fear with whatever was happening in my body, in my, you know, in my being, it was just like coming out as like, you know, there was a couple times I was in the hospital on like IV antibiotics because it was traveling up my arm. And I'm like, holy, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Right. But there was big things in my life happening. And some of
Mhm.
them I didn't know then, but I know them now.
Yeah.
And other ones that we were transitioning through as a family, as, you know, individuals, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, holy smokes. And you know, if I was working with somebody of the mind, body, spirit, they'd be like, okay, we're going to go down this path with it because it's not about the spider, it's about all these pieces. So it's
Yeah.
just interesting. I'm like, ooh, that brings back many things, right? And I've
Yeah.
come to a very different place with it now. And I'm like, you know, I'm okay. I'm not gonna die. It's just
No.
my body reacting. It's just giving me a little reminder. It's just saying, hey, maybe you should take care of, you know, maybe this part of you. And you
Mhm.
know, maybe, you know, your histamines are low, or maybe you're exhausted and burnt out, and this is telling you you need to rest. So it's interesting how those things that show up for us have such big messages,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
right?
Our
Like,
bodies will tell us everything.
yeah, but we don't always listen. And
No.
it's like the biggest vessel, the most powerful. We are built to heal anything. And the longer we don't listen, the bigger the yell or the scream or the whatever gets from our body,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
And
my gosh. Yes. I have actually a story to tell about that very
yes,
thing.
yes,
So, it was just over a year ago at the time of this recording that spiritual mentorship ended.
yes,
And so there was a lot of forgiveness work to be done because it was not a pretty ending in any way. It was
yeah.
narcissistic. There was all sorts of abuse that happened. And so over the year, and I mean, I do forgiveness work. That's what I do. It's what I teach. And so, of course, I'm doing my own work. But there was one thing, and I didn't notice. I wasn't paying attention. And again, awareness is everything. And
Mhm.
it was this little niggling thing because when the relationship ended, it was just cold turkey. There was no closure. There was no conversation. It was just done. Blocked on social media, complete cutoff.
Wow.
And so I kept saying, man, I wish I had closure. I wish I had closure. I need closure.
Mhm.
So I do all this forgiveness work. We get to a year later and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Like I feel solid. She's not in my head all the time anymore. And, you know, the grief is gone.
Mhm.
Oh no, the grief is in your body, Cindy. So January, I got sick, coughing, 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 coughing. It went away. February, cough again. March, coughing again. Still not listening. Still not hearing the words that I'm saying. I need closure. In other words, I need something outside of myself.
You need to speak all your truth.
Right?
Mhm.
So It was 3 weeks ago. The cough came back again, but this time it came back with a vengeance, and I got bronchitis. I could barely breathe. Three different types of inhalers, antibiotics, all the things. And I was like, all right, body, what is it? And our brains, man, my brain was like, but I've done the forgiveness work. And I was like, all stubborn about it, right?
Yeah.
So the universe, God, I love how the energy works, figured out a pathway for me to do the work. And I had a dream in the middle of the night, the most vivid dream. It felt like I was awake, where she came to my house and we had it out and we let her rip. And I got my closure. And then I kicked her out of my house.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped coughing 3 days later. So when your body is screaming at you, I highly recommend you listen.
Right. And I think, I find that when I'm working with people, they're at that point when they come to see me, they're like, okay, so like, seriously, I just need some support and I need a space. I need a bit of guidance and I need to know I'm going to be okay. And I'm ready to dive in. Like we carry this stuff like warriors and these backpacks, this little radio flyer wagon with all the shit that's fallen out of it. And it's just like, or the backpack that we're pulling along, or the buffalo hide that's been there and it's just heavy and worn out. Like,
So we're getting
why do we have,
exhausted.
like, oh my God, like, why do we have to do this? And I think because we've been able to, work our way through these pieces, when someone comes, we're like, I actually do truly get that. I understand, maybe not from your experience, but from my own experience, I do get this shit. And, let's go. Like, I can help you unpack this because no one said you had to carry this. No one said you had to do this forever, right?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see when you give them permission and you just see them like, oh, like really?
Yeah.
And I mean, you do it over a little bit longer period of time. And I do one-to-one as well, but I find the retreats when they come together and we've got this container that I've been building and like loving and adding all the juicy things that need to be there and the people that come and work with me, that when they land, they're just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I can do this. Like this last one that I had down on the Sunshine Coast, I still I have not landed from it yet.
Yeah.
It was so impactful and profound for me too. Witnessing, sharing, nurturing, holding space. Like they were warriors. And they showed up for themselves for most every single one of them for the first time in their entire lives. They had a vacation with a purpose, not a vacation to go sit on a beach and play on their phone.
Right? Yeah.
But that vacation with the purpose of this gift that they had no idea what they were doing when they signed up for it. They did because they were led by their heart and their intuition. But that gift was so expansive. And for all of them still, they're just expanding and expanding and expanding, even as we speak. And I think you witness that in your work too, right? Because people are, they're coming to you when they've had all the experiences that you've had, similar to that. And they're like, okay, let's go. Let's unpack.
Yeah.
Let's have a fire ceremony because we need to do that. Let's burn this shit.
I do like to burn shit.
Yeah. Well, using the element, right? The elements of nature, it allows people to let go. Right. And I know we've both been in places where we've really learned to let go and unplug and realize that we don't have to be all of those things and that warrior and that independent, like, come on, fiery woman. We want to be that, but in a healthy way.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
In an empowering way.
Not supposed to be on all the time. I mean, I am very passionate and fiery and let's go, let's get gone. But then there's also my soaker tub that I hang out in all the time too.
Right? And for me, it's cold dipping, man. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So, knowing those things about ourselves too, and I think that's what we get to really witness and help people with on this beautiful journey is, giving them these little nuggets and these little tools that they can take into their lives as they, get off that 16-lane highway onto the dirt path or the goat trail or whatever it is,
Yeah.
there, and they can have these things that they can come home to
Hmm.
inside of themselves. And yeah, it's magic. It's just purely magical.
Yeah.
So if you were to leave everyone with something that has just been so impactful and powerful for you in your life, like if they find themselves on that 16-lane highway and they're wanting to get off on that exit, but they just don't know how,
Hmm.
what could you leave them with that would give them that permission to take that left turn or that right turn?
Mm. There's two different ways I want to go with this. My
Perfect.
intuition. It's so fun. Our society teaches us that we're just supposed to feel grateful. We should just be grateful for what we've got.
Mhm.
And there are times, yes, when we need to be grateful, but there's something more important than gratitude. And we tend to skip over it because we think that it's about somebody else instead of all about ourselves. Gratitude, when you are hurt or triggered or caught up in a story or blaming your parents or whatever is happening in your life, is like putting a band-aid on an open wound. It kind of like covers up the problem, but it doesn't actually heal. The most important thing that we can do is, and you can you can interchange words here, forgiveness or acceptance.
Mhm.
Acceptance of what is, or forgiveness for what was. And
Yeah.
this is the work that helps set you free. This is the work that allows you to be sovereign.
Mhm.
And then once you've gotten through that, you pour the gratitude on, and it's like rocket fuel for your dreams.
Yeah.
But you cannot get there by just band-aiding gratitude on top of stuff. It doesn't work. So wherever you find yourself in your life, you're stressed out, the kids are driving you crazy, you're burnt out, you want to quit your job, whatever's going on, slow down, take a deep breath, and put your hand on your heart and say, it's okay. I deeply love and accept myself anyway.
Mhm.
And then see where that takes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. 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 And it's such a simple thing in lots of ways. And
It's not easy, but it's simple.
yeah, it's not easy. I don't think I mean, nothing is necessarily that is worth um embarking on or traveling with is necessarily easy,
Mhm.
but it's easier when you really just you trust, you listen, you allow yourself to be guided, not necessarily by anyone else, but by yourself.
Mhm.
And you're, like you said earlier, you're not afraid of what other people think or
Mhm.
say. You just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Right. And that's hard. And I find myself now at, like I said, turning 49 going, boy, I'm really starting to really not give a shit. I feel like it's just, and I'm sure, and many people say once you hit that 50, you really don't give a shit anymore.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, I'm building up to this. This is very
There you
interesting,
go.
right? And, whether it's speaking my truth to that person that it needs to be spoken to, living my truth in my most authentic way. And whatever that looks like, I don't care what anybody else thinks because it's not about them.
Yeah.
I'm not, being a people pleaser. Well, oh, I want to make sure everybody else is happy, and then I'll do this. Well, I don't fucking care anymore.
Yeah.
Because really, it is not their journey. And it's okay that it's not theirs,
Yeah.
but it's mine. And when I don't live in the most authentic, sovereign way, then I'm actually not honoring my journey.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So one of the things that I teach my clients, I get into the science of things and
Yeah.
the nitty gritty because I like to have some proof or like some evidence of how this is working. So
Mhm.
the Heart Math Institute has talked about this a lot. Every single human has an energy field around them. Call it an aura, call it a Taurus field, call it whatever you want. I like to call it my 9-meter bubble. And I walk around in a 9-meter bubble, and the only thing that I am responsible for is the frequency of that 9-meter bubble. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. So if somebody comes into my experience and I feel drained afterwards, guess whose fault that was? Mine, for letting that person into my bubble.
Yeah.
If I'm like going and helping everybody else, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Guess whose fault that is? Mine, because I didn't take care of my 9-meter bubble.
Yeah.
And so everything that I do and everything I teach my clients is about this 9-meter bubble, making sure that it is filled with all the things you love, all the energies, all the frequencies, all the people, all the animals, the trees, the birds, the hawks, all the things that you love.
Yeah.
Anything else outside of that bubble doesn't fucking matter. Stop it. And when you focus on that 9-meter bubble, you become a magnet for more. And the universe goes, oh, look at that little bubble walking around. Here's some more. Here's some more. Here's some more. Right? Now, if you're not paying attention to your 9-meter bubble and you're focused on the news and all the other crap that's going on in the world, guess what the universe does? Because the universe doesn't judge good or bad or evil. The universe just says, here's some feedback. Here's what you're creating. And so when your 9-meter bubble is filled with a bunch of stuff you don't like, remember, you are responsible for your 9-meter bubble and nothing else.
Yeah. I love it.
Bubble.
Right? And it makes you think about, those ones that you can put on and then you play.
Soccer ball. That's kind of how I picture it in my head.
Right? And it's just like and it's playful. So it's very logical, but it's also very playful. And I think when you can get people to get into that playful mind, you can get them to understand it more and to go, oh, you mean, okay, so I could,
right? And you're
yes,
I get it. Yeah.
yeah. And it's so interesting how that comes into work, because that little bit of playfulness and spiciness is super fun. And people are craving that. They don't even know it. Like, and here we are, we get to sprinkle a little bit for them and, show them that part of themselves again. And
life is supposed to be fun and playful and adventurous. It's not supposed to be hard.
No. But we're also in charge of that. We get to make it as hard as we want, or as spicy and fun and playful as we want. Exactly. And so when we get to and when we get to that place where, we're really, we're working with that bubble and we're letting in what we want and the universe is delivering more, man, it's like, saddle up and hold on for that ride, because it's like, it's going to be like, let's go. Right? Yeah. Oh, so many things. We could probably talk for hours and hours.
Right?
I'm sure we could. But I just want to thank you for just coming and sharing a little snippet of your journey, where you've been, where you are, where you're going, and how you're working with people, because your work is so powerful. And it's just, I can see how aligned, just like how I feel, you just glow, and you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing what you're supposed to do. Yeah. Spiders and all. So I will share all the great things of how people can get a hold of you on the notes for the podcast. And, if anyone's got any questions or they want to dive a bit deeper into your beautiful work, they can get a hold of you. And I'm just excited for more conversations to come. I think it'll be amazing.
Me too. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. So good.
So good. So good. Thank you. Let's